All right, the next talk was real talk, growing your podcast audience, what actually works and what doesn't. This was one of those that I was so excited to hear this talk. And it wasn't necessarily about growing your audience that I was excited about. I have been wanting to know and understand the HubSpot Podcast Network for a long time. If you're unfamiliar, HubSpot Podcast Network is where Amy Porterfield took her show, Jenna Kutcher took her show, John Lee Dumas. I actually met him at Podcast Movement in 2021, and he was talking about, I'm trying to get Amy to move her show over to the HubSpot network. And I just kept thinking, like, what is he even talking about? Like, why, like, what's the significance about this network? And so if you're not familiar, HubSpot is a CRM platform, and basically what they're doing is they are branching out and building a digital media real estate scape, if you want to call it that, with podcasting. So within this podcast network, the podcasters, the podcast host, promote other shows. So it is a built-in marketing machine for them to advertise about their products, right? Their CRM products, but also to build up each other's podcasts. Because I know Amy, her show, like she shared about, she went from getting however many downloads a month to she hit her first 1 million downloads in 1 month. I guess it was last year. That's incredible, right? Like after she joined this network. And so they have like a creator path, and it's an accelerator program. And I think that they choose between 8 to 10 podcasters a year that have a very small audience. They give them money, like a stipend, to grow their show, whether that's for marketing or producing, editing, if they need equipment, whatever they need. And then it helps them grow their podcast, and then they pay their podcasters. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm sure there's contracts, and it depends on your audience, your size. I don't even know like the back end of what all that includes, but it was very interesting. And we'll talk more about the specifics on that in a second, because there was another talk. There were 2 talks that I went to with HubSpot. And one of the things that they talked about was HubSpot and some of these different networks, they don't own your IP. Now, I can only speak to HubSpot specifically because I went up and asked this question to the person, their representative. I was like, who owns the IP? If someone takes their podcast over to HubSpot, who owns that? What if you decide to go somewhere else? And she said, oh no, we don't own your IP. The selection of their shows is very intentional on what they bring on, to where they know they're not going to have somebody that's like says really inappropriate things or says political things that, you know, just raise red flags. They don't own your IP. They have a partnership with their creators. It's all business podcast anyway. So it's entrepreneurship, it's marketing, it's building businesses. And Donald Miller is another one. If you're familiar with building a story brand, I think he has 2 podcasts on the HubSpot network. So all this was really interesting. And when they talked about growing your audience, it wasn't for indie podcasters as much. Like it was so interesting because they said, well, a small podcast gets 50,000 downloads per episode. And I was like, that is not a small podcast. Like, what are you talking about? My show is in, if you go to Listen Notes and you look at like the global ranking of podcasts, mine is in the top 1.5% globally. I don't get 50,000 downloads. Okay, let's just call it no. I get hundreds of downloads. I don't even get thousands of downloads per episodes. Okay, like that was crazy talk. To talk about a small podcast is 50,000 downloads. So again, this is where it was interesting to see the big industry players and their take on podcasting versus what I know and understand as an independent podcaster and the people that are listening to this show. Okay, last talk. This one was so good. So this was HubSpot, and this was the second one. So we already talked about HubSpot before, but this one was all about creators or entrepreneurs, how to grow and scale your podcast like a business. And the big takeaway that I had was they had their head of creator partnerships with HubSpot there, and then they had 2 podcasters. Emily from Being Boss was there, has been around for a while, and she joined HubSpot Network a while back, and I don't know the terms for bringing an existing show over to HubSpot, but for the brand new creator that joined, she received an initial $10,000 investment. We kind of talked about that earlier. You get this initial investment and it helps you with production and engineering or your equipment or whatever you need. And then now she is going to start getting promotions on other HubSpot podcasts in their network. And I thought this was so interesting to learn all this behind the scenes. But what they did is they talked about the team is the key to building a successful business with a podcast. Whether that is an editor, if it's a graphic designer, if it's a virtual assistant, there's so many facets and components of how you can build a team. And I think that asking others for help is one of those things that we don't do enough as creators. We do lean on ourselves a lot. I mean, I can speak for myself personally. I lean on my software more than I lean on other people. And the reason is because I've had a lot of control, like behind the scenes of I can control this and I can do that with a software, but I'm starting to lean on other people in ways that makes me a little uncomfortable and I haven't done previously, but I want to do that more because it does help you grow. And reaching out for help in your community is another way. So I've reached out here before in this community where I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a virtual assistant. I'm looking for someone to help me with this launch. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. So I reach out into my community whenever I do need help. But I think it's really important to do that in a more regular basis whenever you're looking at creating and launching your content. And one of the other things that they talked about is marketing your podcast. She talked about guest swaps, email marketing, word of mouth marketing, creating a community and a space for your audience to talk to each other. So not just something that you have to be there all the time to kind of babysit or engage people. Where are you creating a space where other people that are interested in your topic or your industry can talk to each other? And we have the Proffitt Podcast online community. This is our Facebook group where people do reach out and ask questions. Like just the other day, I saw someone posted their trailer episode and they're like, hey, can somebody take a listen to this and let me know what they think? And I think this is great. It's like having a place where I don't have to be in there engaging 100% of the time, but people are asking questions and getting feedback in real time from other people that are in this space is just, it's so fun. I still feel like I could have kept talking and I feel like I rushed through some parts, but if you have questions about podcast movement evolutions, please reach out to me. Any of the things that we talked about, I'd be happy to go on a deeper dive into what I learned, what I'm implementing, and just all the fun things. But you can go to the show notes for today's episode and go check out everything. I'm going to have pictures there and more of the descriptions behind the scenes of what I learned. But make sure you are subscribed, following this podcast wherever you are listening and watching. And I am just so grateful that you are part of this community. And as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.